Today's topic has to do with injuries to the shoulder. But I want to point out 4 ways in which you can hurt your shoulder. It takes one to know one. I have a shoulder injury to my supraspinatus, a small tear. Luckily, so far, I've kept it under control. So here are 4 of the ways in which you can hurt your shoulder. Number 1, pushing down. Number 2, pulling up. Number 3, pulling back. And number 4, pushing forward. So those 4 are all ways in which you should not be using your shoulder. So let's talk about the first one, pushing down. When would you see this? Overheads and serves. So when you're serving or when you're hitting an overhead and you're reaching out for the ball, rather than you snapping with your hand, you would bring your shoulder down and in turn snap the ball. Tiki's in today's video too. So be careful to start the motion basically with the shoulder. You don't want to start the downward motion with the shoulder and then finish it with your arm, with your hand. You want to start the downward motion with your hand and then finish with the rest of your arm. Notice that the shoulder stays at the same height. Ideally, it should reach up a little bit, but you do not want to see the shoulder dropping and then the racket dropping. So pulling up. This mainly happens on the ground strokes. So picture yourself hitting a forehand. Rather than you starting the motion with the head of the racket and your hand, you basically start the motion with the shoulder. You go up and then you go forward, especially when you're late. This motion up here is very dangerous because basically when the ball comes to you with so much speed, speed becomes weight. So you're basically lifting a very heavy ball with the rotator cuff. So ideally you want to lead with the hand, keep the shoulder at the same height. The only thing that the shoulder does is it acts as a pendulum, allowing the arm to reach forward and allowing the rotation to happen. Pulling back. This mainly happens on ground strokes. So picture yourself hitting a forehand. You're in the middle of the ground stroke, and rather than you allowing the rotation to happen and then starting the topspin, which is going to basically decelerate the stroke, you stop the rotation from happening and you pull the end of the stroke with the back of the shoulder. And in turn, you decrease the speed and you make the ball go in. This is a way in which you can control the stroke, in which you can take away a little bit of the speed, but that's not healthy for the back of the shoulder. So ideally, right when it's time to do the topspin, you need to let that shoulder rotate, go forward so that you're controlling the stroke by using topspin, not by pulling the stroke away and making it go in. And the last way to hurt your shoulder is pushing ahead of the stroke. So this happens mainly on ground strokes and mainly when you're returning. So picture yourself hitting a forehand or a backhand, and rather than you waiting to make contact and then rotating, you let the left side of the body move first and then you make contact. Same thing on the backhand. Rather than making contact first and then rotating to finish the stroke, you initiate the stroke with the opposite side of the body, the non-dominant side of the body, which in my case would be the right side. I need to dominate with the left side because my ball is on my left side. So I'm going to pull out of the stroke, then I'm going to make contact, and then I'm going to finish the stroke. This is really dangerous too because basically you're pulling your shoulder into opposite directions. That way with the body and that way with the force that the ball is putting on your strings. So ideally, you need to try and wait to make contact and then rotate. These are some of the 4 ways in which you can hurt your shoulder. So pay attention. I hope this helps. See you next week.